Hey friends, welcome again to the Arable Leader podcast. I'm Karl Martin. Hey, over the past few months, I've had a whole number of conversations that have gone over time. And my team was saying, cut. But the conversations were so fascinating and so useful, I just didn't want to stop. Unfortunately, we had to remove some of the conversations. But today, we get to see and listen to all the conversations, a whole bunch of different outtakes. So today's episode is a smorgasbord, a cornucopia, a medley of all the conversations that we've been having, a number of different questions. And I think you're going to find this not just useful, but fascinating. So listen up. This is the Arable Leader podcast. I'm Karl Martin, and we're exploring true, brave, kind, curious leadership, leading from your soul. So Jack, I just want to play into what's the best leadership advice that you've ever been given?
Oh, okay. So this is directly from my father, and people are like, "Oh man, that sounds like you should say."
Sounds great.
It's actually from my dad. He started by saying, "Jack, give 100% of who you are to anything you're going to do."
Boy, I just want to repeat what I've said up to now, and that's, how do you love the person and recognize their gifts, their talents? How do you empower them? How do you see who they are?
I've actually changed these words and I've made them my own. I'm like, "What do you mean, Dad?" I think I'm doing it all the time. He goes, "No." He goes, "You need to give 100% of who you are to whatever project you're in." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll do that." He's like, "Well, but there's a reason why. If you give 100% of your effort, you can be confident the outcomes are outside of your control, that they're God's. The outcomes are God's." And I question that. And as I've developed his leadership advice, I've added not just your 100% of your effort, but 100% of your attitude.
That's good.
I think I already shared it. I mean, I think it was your advice about, breaking it down into encourage, inspire, empower.
Loyalty, care, safety, trust is built on me seeing the other person, not them having to see me. As a leader, I'm already being seen. But can I, as a leader, use my power to go see the other person and really see their life, their hurts, their pains, their joys, their victories, their abilities, their talents, and they will excel. And if they excel, then I excel.
And your attitude can be defined multiple ways, and we're not going to have time to do it here. That'd be a whole podcast. Yeah. But I would say is, if you give 100% of your effort and 100% of your attitude, and that attitude is meaning your whole spirit, your positivity, your encouragement, these different parts of the attitude, if you give 100% of that, then you can be confident the outcome, whatever the outcome is, because you couldn't have done more. That's great. That's what I give to others.
But I think the other one might be, JD used to talk to me about leadership really being about character and authenticity, that traits of a great leader were character and authenticity. And I don't think that's what people, when you think of leadership, that's not the first thing everybody always says. So maybe I would say, I think that leadership's about character and authenticity from JD, and your advice on encourage and, inspire and empower.
And let me give you some encouragement around that. I coach a number of people who also know you.
Yeah.
And on at least 2 occasions, people have said, "I just want to be more like Jack." and I'm going, "Have you seen him play golf?" But
that's not funny.
So Shasta, one of the questions that I always ask my podcast guests is what I call the soul question. We have the true, brave, kind, curious question, but this is the soul question. Because I have this kind of innate belief that life is more than the 5 senses. It's way more, it's way deeper. There's something more to everything. So what's the core belief? What's the core of everything that you do? Where do you get all this stuff from?
I just feel called. I mean, that's a word. I just feel convicted. I feel like, this is what I'm here to do, and this is the guidance I'm here to give. I'm kind of like the prophet out in the desert, being like, this matters, this pays attention, like, we need to be looking at this more. So yeah, it just comes from this deep, deep, deep place inside of me that, I mean, there's years I didn't make money at this. This is not like some big, great, trendy topic that I like. It's something that I have felt just called to do. And I feel called to take this to organizations and to people and to just our day lives. Like, just, we all crave being connected. It is a core human need. I often equate loneliness with being hungry. Like, we need people the way we need food. And we don't shame ourselves for needing food. We take care of it. Like, we need to teach and train ourselves how to build healthy relationships. It's just my fundamental belief.
So Jeremy, tell me about rest. Because, you know, one of the principles we talk about is learning to work from rest, not rest from work. And someone with your capacity and execution kind of levels, that must be quite a challenge for you. How do you rest, and how are you learning to do so?
Rest is super important. I didn't appreciate it early enough, and it led me into bad health and bad relationships and everything else. And so I've learned it the hard way. I think there's rest in a couple different ways. I think there's rest physically. Yeah. I think there's rest mentally.
Yes.
I think there's rest spiritually. And they may all coincide in one activity, or they may need separate treatment, but I think they're all important.
Right now I'm failing. Quite honestly, I'm failing at the rest. And I think that's an element that not only you and I talked about, but spoken to my wife about, because it's not that I'm working so much. Well, I mean, there's a lot of hours. Yeah. It's that all parts of my life right now are maxed. Yeah. The training to run, the wanting to, the desire to be improving in golf, the desire to be the best dad I can be and to be there for my kids, even though they're grown, and how that's changed, and then to be at work. There's so many elements. And I want to do them all to the best of my ability, but if I put all those elements together, there's not enough time right now to rest. Yeah. And people, you know, including yourself, have said, wait a second, that's nuts. Yeah. You can't do any of those if you don't rest. That's right. So I guess I would tell you is what am I doing right now is I'm failing and I'm learning.
You know, where I cheat the most certainly is physical rest. Yeah. Just to get it all in, but I try to prioritize it to the extent I can. I think the other forms of rest, though, are as important and maybe often more neglected in a sense. Yeah. And so I run. My running time is downtime. I'm physically doing something, but it's downtime mentally, and I can just kind of float into thoughts and ideas and talks and whatever. When I travel, which is a fair amount, I make my plane time be rest time, and that's by design. That's intentional. Yeah. And so I'm not popping up in the laptop and just keep jamming away on stuff. Yeah. It's like.
Do you watch movies?
Sometimes, but I'll often more read, or I'll often more sleep. If I don't have trouble sleeping on planes.
Yeah. Some of the things I'm doing when I'm doing well are to literally, tactically turn the phone off.
That's good.
Put it up in the corner, plug it in, get a charge for the next time, but literally turn it off. Yeah. Literally go and get away so that my mind is actually able to rest. Yeah. Sometimes it's been sitting out at the poolside and to put my feet in the water and just sit. Yeah. And I know that sounds a little bit like what? But the other thing for me, a lot of time, my rest is to be able to go on a run, which seems a little bit weird, but physically for me to run is almost to kind of like blow out my mind, to blow out my body, and to just kind of sweat out, because I almost need to feel depleted.
Yeah, that's right.
Of all the stuff on me. Yeah. And so that's another tactic that
it's about turning your brain off.
It is.
And it's about slowing your heart, which might not be the run thing, but there are ways of doing that.
So it's whatever I need at the moment the most, in a sense, but like it's intentional of like, I'm not going to jam away for 4 hours, 3 hours on a plane.
I think I increasingly think it's important to think through the difference between rest as recovery and rest as recreation. Mm-hmm. Because if it's just recovery, it seems that you just get back to zero again. Yeah. You've depleted, you get back to zero again. I've recovered. Yeah. And over time, you just get more and more tired.
Yeah.
Right, in every way, mentally, physically, spiritually. And so the ability to know what recreates me.
Yeah.
And it might be sleep for some people, it might be running. For some people, running is just work.
Right.
And some people running, it's, for me, running is just work.
Yeah.
I do it. I'm not built for running, I'm built for fighting, and basically it's just, I pound the pavement. What one piece of advice would you want to give to a young man or woman who's just coming up, maybe they're college age, maybe they've just left, about embracing leadership in this moment, in this cultural moment?
It's one of the things that I think about today as a not so young man, and I think maybe it's a universal truth, which is you can't be intimidated by the cancel culture. I think the cancel culture has made it really hard to be a leader and to speak your mind out of fear of retribution or fear of the inability to progress your station in your company or with your church group or wherever you are. But I think if you're going to be a happy leader, you have to be happy with yourself first. And if you can't express who you are, whether that's accepted or not, then you're probably not going to be a long-term successful leader. So be comfortable in your skin. Know that it's not going to be right for everyone. And if you're wrong for a situation, then it's probably not the place you want to be a leader anyway. So, I felt after, I've been in large media for 34 years, Karl. One of the things I told my wife as I was leaving my most recent post was I feel like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders because I can actually be entirely who I want to be rather than, a produced version of that.
Yeah. Well, and we totally believe that at Arable, and that I do. Know yourself, lead yourself, get comfortable in your own skin, know what it feels like to be the other side of you before you ever embrace a role, find your purpose. Dave, one of the things that I'm spending a lot of time with leaders talking about is that physical health is paramount to emotional health, spiritual health, and leadership health. And we often miss that out. We often confuse these things and think it's a nice to have, but not necessary. So talk to me about your sleeping, your eating, your drinking, and your moving, and whether there are any rhythms and practices that you put in place which help you show up well. Because you're a specimen, man.
Yeah. Well, some of that's genetics because I'm not... So first of all, a disciplined life comes down to being an intentional life. It doesn't happen on accident. And that's whether you're talking about margin, whether you're talking about a healthy marriage, whether you're talking about physical health, mental health, all of that, I would encourage everybody, does not happen on accident. You have to be intentional. So for me, I set my alarm at a certain time. I do have a routine. I start my day with two things. It's my physical and spiritual health. So my first thing is I start my day with a devotional. I read scripture, I pray, I kind of lay my day before the Lord. I don't look at text or anything during that time. That time is sort of sacred to me.
It's the same concept of like better people make better valors, like I mentioned earlier, right? Like you can't be great to others unless you're taking care of yourself and great to yourself. And I think, sometimes even definitely here, sometimes people get so wired into my mission is to help other people, my purpose is to help other people. It's about it. I'm pouring out. And I don't think we're called to do that. I don't think that's meant to be the idea, right? Yeah. As noble as that is, if you burn out or if you die, you're of no use to anybody at that point.
Depending on what my daily schedule is, I try to have my next session is for physical, is taking care of myself, and I work out in my garage. I kind of have a little, again, I'm not a workout lunatic, but it's enough that it definitely affects my mental health. And then I would say probably need to do a little bit better on the eating, but again, it comes down to discipline. And I would add to that, everybody, what are the things that give you life? Do you have a hobby? Do you have, your relationships, your friends, your spouse, your kids? Time doesn't happen on accident. You have to be intentional with it. So I book time with the things that are important to me. To try to have balance, because a healthy me, Jack Hollis, a good friend of yours, good friend of mine, I remember him telling me, the healthier I am at home and in my spiritual and personal life, the better president of Joe Gibbs Racing I'm going to be. And that stuck with me. And I think that's true for all of us. Yep. The healthier you are mentally and physically, the better you're going to be at work.
And so I think it is finding that, not even a balance, but just finding the first priority is take care of yourself.
Totally.
And then you can be great to other people and sustain it.
What's the whole oxygen mask in the plane thing?
Yeah.
Put it on first yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Seems selfish, but actually it's the only way.
So I try to eat better. I try to run. I try to lift weights. I do all those things. Yeah.
Yeah, great. If your kids were sitting in the room with me right now,
they'd be booing.
Would they? No,
throwing popcorn.
They would not be very.
No, they wouldn't.
And they were going to give you a piece of advice. Say, Dad, in the next 10 years, we'd like you to ...
I mean, as much as I've tried to work at it and continue to work at it, I'm sure they would say, pay more attention to us, focus on us more, spend more time with us.
Yeah.
Invest in us in that way.
That's massive, isn't it? I mean, I think my kids would say the same.
Yeah.
I think it's massive, and we all know the right answer to that.
Yeah.
And we all know that nobody dies on their deathbed and goes, hey, I wish I worked harder.
Right.
I wish I hadn't seen my kids
a lot. But you still nonetheless prioritize and order your life around it.
The first one would be you need to not worry about having everything figured out for the rest of your life. I think I've always kind of wanted to always have a plan. I'm a planner. I like having plans and timelines.
Yeah.
I think that I would often think about how is the plan going to go.
Yes.
And then it turns out it's going to change anyway.
Yeah.
But I ended up finding myself being frustrated by the plan not going the way I thought it would go.
Yeah.
Versus back to being present, about being present and enjoying what you have. So one piece of advice would be you don't have to have everything figured out in your life and figured out even for a period of time.
Yep.
And the light bulb moment for me, and that was just a couple of years ago, of if someone said, what are your top 3 priorities in your life? I would say faith, family, work, right?
Yep.
And it'd be in that order.
Yeah.
Well, what do I actually set goals around each year? What do I actually spend time on the most? Right? And it's work, it's not these things. And so I've tried to apply everything I know about work goals and achieving things and all of that, and saying, how do I do that in these other 2 domains?
Yep.
And again, I'm on a very rocky path forward, but I'm getting better at saying, okay, how do I invest in this child, my wife, etc.
Yeah, brilliant.
Probably don't necessarily have to take yourself so seriously. Allow yourself to be, make a mistake and laugh about it.
Yes.
Not where that's definitely wasn't me. Like making errors and putting in uncomfortable positions oftentimes would make me a bit anxious or a bit, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably was more of this protective state around my life, or that I would want the kids to just be like, hey, it's all right. Even the error, it's totally fine. In fact, have some fun with it.
Yeah, fail forward.
And just be like, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Those are probably 2 of the key elements. I think the big encouragement I would give them is that of all of it, the advice to give to them, which I think I believed it early on, but now I espouse it, I really push it, which is the idea of the most important thing you could focus on, not your job, not your career, is relationships.
Wow.
Yeah, I would literally tell them that it is the relationships, and how you pour yourself into them, even if you get hurt.
And so your friends, people who would say that you're close friends, give me 3 words that they would use to describe you.
Convicted, probably wise. I hear that one a lot, and fun.
That's nice. Convicted, wise, fun. They're kind of aspirational values that people want to have. This is the coach question. So what input or advice would you have for me as a coach?
So the advice I would have for you probably stems around, while you're giving sage advice, it's a real distraction when I glance down at those yellow socks that you wear that generally are fairly out of place with the well put together outfit you have. That might be a English thing, maybe, or a Scottish thing.
It's a style thing, Dave,
okay,
which
I
you probably wouldn't
that.
know anything about. And
that is true.
And what you're talking about is jealousy.
It is a little of both. That's fair. And you pull it off well, but I'm not going to lie, my jealousy sort of becomes a distraction, and so there, you asked for it.
Brilliant. Thank you, my friend.
I think it would be is to continue to push on others into discomfort. I think for you, and we've been together, you can oftentimes push, and I think you can almost feel like you got people to the edge. I think sometimes you can go over. I think you can push a little bit into uncomfort, even so the person's like, "Hey, don't ask me that.
Yeah.
That's not your business."
Yeah.
Then you know you've gone over.
Yeah.
I actually think you can push into
a bit further,
right? Into the discomfort of another.
Yeah.
At a calculated pace, at a calculated.
You realize
area.
that's a permission slip.
I didn't say for me. I said for others. Did you not hear me? You can do that to other people, not myself.
Well, I think a lot of it is walking with a boldness that comes with confidence that you know who you are, that you do the hard work, that you sit and you look at yourself and evaluate, where's my weaknesses and strengths? And it's to stay in that. It's not lose that evaluation, so that you do walk boldly, not because you have every answer, but because you know the process. The process is still much more powerful than the answer. The answer is momentary for the situation at hand, but a process that's healthy, a process that's solid, will take us forever through any situation. And you are actually working a process that's brilliant and powerful. And I would just say walk boldly with knowing you have a great process in mind.
I try and tell my sons this all the time, not so much about leadership, but about, building a life and a career. And, from point A to point B is not going to be a straight line. You're not always moving up. You're not moving from, account manager to vice president to senior vice president. There's going to be all sorts of ups and downs. Your relationships aren't going to be all positive. But if you believe in yourself and you believe in your skills and you believe in, your values, then look at that up and down as part of the fun of the journey. Because the downs can be really, hard on you if you don't realize that things will get better because you are a good person and you do have the life skills to be successful. So for young people in particular that tend to get down on themselves, know that there's a better day and more better days than bad days because you're capable.
Final question, Randy. You are a superstar, and because you're a superstar, just like all the baseball players and the basketball stars and the boxers, you have a walk-on tune. What is your walk-on tune for life?
Oh my goodness. I think it's anything from Jesus Loves the Little Children, which is all about just loving and being a kid. Anything to do with playing and being a kid would be my walk-on tune.
I don't have a walk-on song. I need one, and it should probably be friendship focused. But the song that just pops into my head when you asked that was Journey's Don't Stop Believin'. That song just always gets me being like, yes, gotta keep going, gotta keep going.
I really like the Jay-Z Alicia Keys New York song. And it was I'm going to blank on the year, Carl, but it was at the Video Music Awards. I was working for MTV. It took place in Radio City, at Radio City Music Hall. And they broke that song, and you knew it was just a gigantic hit. But it just makes me feel proud to be a New Yorker. And we get our fair share of slugs being New Yorkers. But I think it's a great song. If I could walk
that's
up.
Brilliant. Is that your karaoke number? Do you karaoke?
I cannot confess what my karaoke number is. You have to be really close and high up my triangle to get that one out of me.
Well, that's goals then. That's relationship goals. I'm going to get high up your triangle so I can hear you sing.
200 hours, Karl, and you will get to hear my karaoke song.
I don't know if I've got that in me. Shasta, it's great to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Great to be with you. Thanks.
Randy, thank you so much. Great to speak to you. See you again soon.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you, my friend. Awesome.
Yep.
Brilliant. Thank you, my friend. Well, Jack, thank you so much. And it's been wonderful to talk to you.
Totally, always, Karl. Anytime, all the time.
Bless you, my friend.
Bless you.
You've been watching The Arable Leader with Karl Martin. Subscribe for more episodes with great leaders. And you can also listen to The Arable Leader wherever you get your podcasts. For more resources for leading in a healthy way, visit arableco.com and check out Karl's new book, The Cave, the Road, the Table, and the Fire.